Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, editor-in-chief of Total Retail. I am joined on today's episode by Kadian Langlais, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Renfro Brands. We are going to be discussing a little bit about the Renfro Brands business, and particularly in the current market with the inflationary pressures and some of the steps that Renfro Brands has taken to address those challenges, is a little bit also in terms of what Renfro Brands has planned for the remainder of 2022. So, and obviously how marketing fits into that, given Kadian's position as Chief Marketing Officer. So thank you for joining me on today's show.
Joe, thanks for having me.
So to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about Renfro Brands for those in our audience that might not be familiar with the company?
Yeah, sure. Renfro, well, we are the leading sock manufacturer, designer, and marketer of all socks and legwear products. We've actually been around for 100 years. We celebrated our 100-year anniversary last December. We actually also pioneered some of the earliest sock manufacturing innovations. We were the ones that came up with the toeless seams, and we standardized socks. Like before Renfro, there were sock sizes all over the place. And so we created a process to really create that standardization across sock sizes. So we started in a small town in Mount Airy, North Carolina. I know many people are not quite familiar with Mount Airy, but it's a really small town in North Carolina. It started with about 25 employees, and now we've grown to be over 2,500 employees that are worldwide.
Great. And you mentioned socks are the primary product. Tell us a little bit about the distribution of your products at Renfro Brands.
Yeah, we're distributed in mass market like Walmart and Target. We're also distributed in department stores, e-commerce like Amazon, specialty stores, and of course, we have our own direct-to-consumer online stores, hotsocks.com, kbellsocks.com, and our newly DTC online store, Loops and Wales. And we have about 20 different sock brands. So we have our own brands like Hot Socks and K-Bell, and we have licensed brands, just to name a few, Dr. Scholl's, Smartwool, Fruit of the Loom, and Polo Ralph Lauren.
Great. So so really an interesting, for a legacy 100-year-old company, you're operating in these different channels. So really some interesting background there on the business. A second part of that question, I want the audience to know a little bit more about you personally. Tell us a little bit about your professional background. What led you to Renfro Brands?
Oh my God. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I'll try to summarize this as best as I can. So I started my career actually as a buyer. I started my career at Lord & Taylor in their dress department. So I just had a love for consumers, fashion, and really wanted to be a part of the industry. And I, had many different jobs after that and kind of rose up and had jobs in planning, marketing, retail strategy. And I was really inspired by Renfro's CEO, Stan Jewell. When I spoke to him, I saw the opportunity, a 100-year-old company, so many different socks for different occasions. And it didn't take long. Stan did not have to twist my arm. I saw the opportunity and I was so intrigued and I wanted to be a part of this transformation.
Great. Well, likewise, that provides a great background for your introduction to the audience and sets the stage and provides a little context for what we're going to discuss next. So as I alluded to in our opening, I want to talk a little bit about the current macroeconomic environment and the impact it's having on retailers and brands such as Renfro Brands, with a specific focus on inflation and sort of the inflationary pressures. So can you tell us a little bit about the impact you're seeing currently at Renfro Brands as it relates to inflation?
Yeah, retail as an industry is really grappling with a lot of the supply chain disruptions and inflationary prices that is unprecedented, right? And so, what we've tried to do is really to push the gas pedal on our agility and flexibility. I know a lot of companies post COVID or during COVID have had to be flexible, but I think more so than ever, we have to be agile, right? We don't know necessarily that these goods that we ordered are going to be here August 25th like we used to. And so it's really important that we have this agility model that allows us to flex and pivot based on some of those transportation disruptions that we're seeing.
Yeah, and that actually leads into a follow-up I have in terms of the steps that Renfro Brands has taken to address those challenges. As you mentioned, obviously you need to be more agile and nimble in your supply chain, flexible to meet changing, not only just when products are going to arrive and be in your warehouse and distribution points to be able to be sent out, but also changing consumer demand too, I would imagine, for your product then influences how much you're ordering. So tell us a little bit about if there's an example or two and ways that you've had to become flexible to address the challenges when it comes to supply chain disruption as well as inflation.
Yeah, so like most companies, we have and we have taken some price increases just to be more competitive with our competitors, because our competitors have also taken price increases. So that's one thing that we've had to do, right? And you see that in some of your, like your grocery items, like milk and eggs and so forth. But what I really love about socks in this category, it is still a low ticket item. And what we find is, especially now in a inflationary period, people still want to buy things. People still want to buy little things that kind of make their day. And so we are still seeing increases in socks, which is amazing, right? So maybe you're not going to buy that $2,000 designer handbag, but you may want to buy a $8 hot sock that really exudes your personality. And so what we've done is we've really increased our domestic production as well. And then we've also increased our online footprint by really focusing on socks for different occasions using our DTC platform, Loops and Wales.
That's a good point, and I wanted to follow up on that. Increasing your online presence and potentially driving more D2C business. I would imagine that's, for so many independent brands that are selling through, third parties, whether it's retail stores or marketplaces. They, obviously, I think the ideal is to get the customer to your own website and buying directly from your own brand. Tell us a little bit how D2C has played a factor, particularly during the last couple of years during COVID, and how that might have changed the approach for Renfro Brands.
Yeah, so DTC is a place where we're able to tell our story. We can really flex those unique differentiators of the brands. And so we're utilizing direct to consumer to tell multiple stories that you may not be able to see in department stores. And I actually think the relationship is really it's like hand to hand, right? So we want to grow our department store business and we want to grow our DTC business. And so you may be introduced to the brand in a department store, but you're able to go to our DTC site to learn more about the brands. And maybe we have a more of an expanded assortment there. So it really works hand in hand, and vice versa. You may learn about our brand on our DTC site, and then you're going and shopping for pajamas or something else, and you see the brand. Now you're familiar with that brand, so you'd be more inclined to pick up that item. And so it's really about thinking how we can, really create a great relationship with our customers, regardless of where they're shopping. And our direct-to-consumer platform allows us to really start that conversation, expand upon that conversation, and really create a tighter relationship.
Yeah. I want to bring the conversation back to your specific area of expertise, marketing, and kind of, how the shifts in consumer behavior and shifts in kind of the external factors that Renfro Brands can't control, such as, supply chain disruption and inflation. How has that impacted what you're trying to do from a marketing perspective and how you're engaging your customers?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And I think a lot of marketers have had to like take a step back and almost like throw out your marketing calendar that you created 2 years ago, right? Because what was the plan 2 years ago is definitely not the plan now. And so what we've done, instead of thinking about like, the traditional retail where you kind of launch fall in August, are people really shopping for fall goods in August, right? It's really about this buy now, wear now. We've said it for so many years. I remember saying it at Lord & Taylor way back when I was a buyer, right? But we still haven't changed. And so these supply chain disruptions has really forced us to really think more about buy now, wear now, because goods are going to be late. I mean, that's just like the matter of fact. So let's really think about when customers are utilizing our products. And so whether it's cold weather goods, let's not talk about cold weather in August, right? When even though we may have it on hand and we may have it on hand in September. And so we're really trying to fine tune our storytelling and our marketing plans to be more relevant and to really talk through how to wear, cold weather socks at that time. And then also show using visuals and audio, show people how to style and how to wear. And that also creates more value. So the value isn't just about like the product itself and how great it feels and the fit, but it's really about the styling, the discovering of these new products and new socks to really complement your wardrobe.
And does that marketing approach change at all? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And the story you're trying to tell, depending upon the channel in which you're acquiring the customer. So, for example, does a D2C customer get marketed to differently, say, than a customer that purchases at a department store that you're partnered with? How do you kind of differentiate the two, or maybe they're not? Maybe everything's kind of one unified messaging that's going out.
And I would say that's a really good question. I would say back in the days, when I say back in the days, I mean like last year, 2 years ago, I think a lot of marketers tried to create these differentiated stories, right? So department store may get this message and direct to consumer is a little bit different. And what we've done is really to create this unified message, right? And so the items that are important to the brand, they should be important wherever you're shopping, whether you're shopping on direct to consumer or your favorite department store. We want you to connect with our brands and really, digest or I should say ingest the same message. And so it's that unified message. That's the go forward approach. And I think a lot of brands are, starting to do that.
Yeah. So, Kadian, we've talked a little bit about this rapidly evolving retail environment. We've talked about supply chain, inflation. We haven't really discussed a little bit, but it obviously plays a factor is labor and how that might impact, not only your area of the business marketing, but also, so many different pieces of the Renfro Brands business. With that in mind, tell us a little bit about planning. You talked about kind of the trend of, buy it now, wear it now type behavior where you're not planning out as far in advance because there's so much uncertainty. Tell us a little bit about the thought process for planning, both from, particularly from a marketing perspective and how far in advance can you work given some of the uncertainties that exist?
Yeah, I think, it's still important to have a long-term vision, right? So you may still have your 5-10-year kind of company long-term vision and where you want to be. So I still do believe in that. However, it is so important that when we're planning, I use it more as like a skeleton. It is not like a fixed marketing plan. It is a skeleton. And it is so important for us to be relevant. And so if there are trends that are happening on TikTok and Instagram or Twitter, I think we should try to figure out, and that's what we're doing, how can we be more relevant in our storytelling? What can we, some of the slang terms, okay, my kids, they always let me know when I'm saying something that's a little bit outdated. It's the same thing, right? We have to make sure that our language, our visuals is constantly changing and we're relevant. And so that means that our plan that we created 6 months ago, and now we're about to go live next month, we may have to pivot. And we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and, and just adjust to what's relevant at this time.
Yeah. And to ensure that you're being relevant in that current time, I would imagine that there's a whole lot of collaboration between your team and other areas of the business, to, whether it be, supply chain and merchants, your merchant team, so that you're all in tuned and kind of working in a consistent manner.
Absolutely. So I like to say that we're cross-functional stewards as well, because we're working cross-functionally with our merchandising team and also our planning and forecasting team. That is uber important. We have a big replenishment business. And so, as you alluded to earlier with, supply chain disruptions, there were times when we just knew for a fact we're going to get these goods at, 7:25 delivery because it's replenishment. And so what we've had to do is really work really closely cross-functionally to get updates on delivery time, or maybe even updates on product changes just because of material costs that have gone up exponentially. And so it is important that we work really closely with all the different areas of the company.
So my final question, Kadian, is, as crazy as it sounds, we're approaching almost the midway point of 2022.
Yeah.
With that in mind, it's crazy to think about, but true. Tell us a little about, from your perspective as Chief Marketing Officer, what are the opportunities you see for Renfro Brands that you can maybe lean into for the remainder of 2022? And maybe a thought into how you can kind of tap into some of the opportunities that might be out there.
Yeah, so there's some things we've started to invest a lot in our 360 print machinery, which is in North Carolina, actually. So that means that we can create and produce like small batches of styles and products. And so we've tested that, and we're going to kind of lean into that for some of the holiday season. And so as part of that, we want to test out how we can partner with some of these emerging designers or emerging artists and really create these unique styles that's offered exclusively on our DTC platforms. And so that's something that's brand new. It's a marketing play, but it's also a way for us to also lean into our corporate social responsibility project footprint, where we are committed to partnering with diverse collaborators and designers. And I think that really brings value to the customer. So that's something that's new and that we really want to lean into, hopefully in 2022. And something also, you didn't ask me about this, but something for the future beyond 2022, we're really intrigued with leaning into metaverse. I look at my kids and I see how much money they spend on really customizing some of their avatars, right? And so imagine a world where we're able to really create these personalized socks that complement your avatar's outfit, right? And so that's something is where we're integrating technology into our marketing plans.
Yeah, I think you've raised two really great points there in terms of consumers, and they want to align with brands that share common values, sort of that corporate social responsibility piece, and the diverse designers that you're working with, and having that in mind as you plan for the future. And then that second one around kind of the virtual world and the metaverse specifically is two areas where Renfro Brands can really kind of take a position going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Well, I want to take the opportunity to thank Kadian Langlais, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Renfro Brands, for joining us on today's episode of Total Retail Talks and telling us all this great information about Renfro Brands and its potential future in relation to its marketing strategy. So thank you, Kadian.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.